Okay, we are here in class. We are here in class doing our first demonstration on apple dip. So one of the first things that I need to do is clean my workstation. So I'm going to use this spray. I'm going to spray the surface. I'm going to use a wet cloth and I'm going to wipe it down. Okay, always do that. Second thing is my hair's up. Okay, so I put my hair up, have my apron on. Okay, now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to wash my hands. And I'm going to lather them up really well. And I'm going to do that crossover. I got some jewelry on this morning I'm going to take off. Okay, in the interlocking fingers while I'm singing the ABC song as to how long it's going to take me to wash my hands. Do your nails in there. Do a really good job. Sometimes you need to go up a little bit. Maybe I should take my watch off because it's going to be hard for me to get up my wrists. And just make sure you rinse really well. Okay, you don't want to pick up a dish and have it slip out of your hands. So I'm just going to go ahead and dry my hands really well. Get up my arms. Move my spray over. All right. Now let's make some apple dip. Okay, so one of the first things you need to be aware of are utensils that are needed for this. So I'm going to use a wooden spoon, a metal spatula, or what I used to call or usually call a leveler, and a spatula, and a bowl. I also like to use these little ramekins because that's where I put all the little ingredients and I put it into my container when I'm ready for it, okay? So let's get the bowl where you can see it. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. So one of the first things we're going to do, it calls for, is I'm going to need cream cheese, and I need 8 ounces. So 8 ounces was down here. And this is Neufchâtel. And what it is basically is 1/3 of the fat goes into this product, but it tastes just as good as the regular cream cheese, only I'm, conserving fat that I really don't need in my diet, okay? So Neufchâtel is French for 1/3 less fat. So I would always recommend using this. Tastes exactly the same, but better for you. Okay, so here's my cream cheese all set, ready to go. And so I'm just going to open it up. I don't know if you can see me, but I'm going to go ahead and use my spatula to get this up and then into the bowl. I'll show you the bowl in a minute, but I'm just using my spatula to kind of scrape the package and then going and putting it into the container. Okay, so there is my cream cheese. And one thing it asks is to soften it up. So just so you know, I've actually had it setting out for about an hour and it's really super soft. And I can, it's pretty pliable. As you can see, I'm kind of able to, have it be really smooth, basically, at this point. Okay, I hope you can see that in that bowl. Doesn't look like you can right now as I'm looking at it, but maybe you can, I hope. It's my first go around, so we'll just kind of play it by ear. Okay, the other thing that I'm going to need is brown sugar. So what I'm going to do with that is, remember with brown sugar, we're going to go ahead and pack it in. So you need 1/2 cup of brown sugar. So I'm going to scoop deep like that. And it's got a nice rounding to it. And I'm just going to pat it down. I can probably use a spoon, might be helpful. Okay, so just get that on there and pack it in. And then I'm going to use my leveler to level it off. Just like that. And then you're going to add the 1/2 cup of brown sugar into the container or into your mixture. All right, and then it calls for 1 tablespoon of vanilla. Okay, so remember we talked about how to measure to have that small little dome over the top. And it's always a good idea to have another little bowl that you can measure into in case I overspill. Because if I go over the bowl, then the problem is if I overspill, then all of it goes into my food product and I can't dive in and get it, okay? Because this is a liquid. So I'm going to go ahead and measure. And look for that dome, and then go ahead and put it in my container. As long as I didn't overspill, I should be good. Okay, and then I'm just gonna blend my sugar in first, my brown sugar, just to kind of get it started. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add the vanilla. All right, and then you just blend it in. You could probably use a hand mixer if you wanted to. That would probably be all right. But you're just kind of blending it all in. I do have some round spots of brown sugar, so I'm just going to give it good elbow grease as I'm stirring it. All right, and then I'm just going to set that aside for right now. All right, so now let's cut up some apples. You'll need a cutting board for this and a sharp knife. Sometimes during the process your hands get soiled, so you can either wash them again with soap and water, or you can use your dishcloth as long as it's clean to wipe down your dirty hands. So it's always a good idea to use a knife that's sharp, less apt to cut you. Okay, so I'm going to use my knife. I've taken apples and I've washed them. Okay, and basically you want to pick apples that you like to eat, that are sweet to you. You know, it's not like we're making an apple crisp where we need some of the sugars that are in apples to break down. So I just picked, I want to say these were called Michigan apples, Paula Reds. Okay. And so what I'm going to simply do is there's lots of ways you can cut an apple. Okay. You can cut it in half like this, and always lay them down, because if I have them on this side, it's hard to cut that because they're so wobbly. So you're just going to turn them over and cut them again in half. Just like that. So now I have 4 instead of 2. Trying to move the camera so you can see. All right, so what I'm going to do is core these out. So this is probably how grandma or mom or one of the adults in your life cuts apples, like this. Okay, you can see that. And then you're just going to slice it. Sometimes people slice it in their hands. Sometimes people slice it on the cutting table. I'll show you both. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut the core out. And then I can also use the surface to cut it this way. Just be careful because it's a little bit shaky because it's not flat. So there's that. If you don't like the skin, you can always cut the skin off. I think it tends to be one of the most nutritious parts of an apple. So I would always encourage you to leave the skin on when you can. Okay. All right, so there's one way you can do it. I'm just going to put them in this bowl for now. Okay. There's one bowl. Another way you can cut an apple is you can cut it around the core. So I'm just cutting around the core like this. Okay, so now I have the core that remains. Trying to figure out where the camera is. Core. Okay, and then I'm just going to cut my little pieces here. Notice the apple's nice and flat because I cut it kind of square. So you don't have to worry about cutting yourself. And you cut them whatever thickness you want. You know, it totally depends on, some people like, a thicker cut apple. Some people like them super thin. Some people buy an apple core peeler where you peel it and it all comes in like a little ringlets, which is really cool. If you want that. Sometimes there's an apple core peeler that people have. And I did have one. I'm trying to figure out where it went. But there's always that option, is an apple core peeler. Of course, I'm not going to be able to find it, but you know what I'm talking about. It's the thing you crunch down on the apples. And I just don't, I mean, I have one, I just don't have it here. So I'm just going to keep on cutting. And then I'll show you how I'm going to display this, which the presentation is always a good thing if you want things to look appealing as you, are making things. It's always nice to add a little bit of creative touch or something that, draws people in to want to eat whatever it is you're making. And in this case, it's going to be apple dip. So this is how I'm going to display it. Okay, so let me get some of my debris away with my apples. All right, so I have my plate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bowl, put it in the center, give this another few turns so that it's creamy. Nice and creamed up. Another thing you can always do too is test your apples. That'll tell you if they're tart, maybe a little more brown sugar is needed, or they're really sweet, so don't do anything with the recipe, leave it alone. So totally up to you. So what I'm going to do now is take my spatula and clean off my spoon. Okay, get that ready to be washed. Always clean as you go. So as I'm dirtying things up, in class, you would have somebody that basically is starting the dishes, okay? So that by the end of class, if you work efficiently, everything should be done because everybody's doing their own job. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull all the mixture away from all the edges so it's ready to go into the bowl. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in there. Make sure you get it all. You don't want to waste. All right, there you go. So there's that. And then the display could be simply putting an apple in to show people what needs to get done. And then just arranging your apples strategically. You know, some people like the messy look, so you could do it messy. However you want to do it. But I'm just using this to kind of make it look appealing to people. Draw people in that want to come and eat some apples. Okay? So there is your apple dip. Now what I need you to do is you are going to use the demo page to fill out your recipes, just like I did. And all you have to do is fill that out. There'll be a couple questions I'm going to add to it. This probably will feed about, depending on how many apples, I would say probably 5 people. That would be its yield. And then just serve. There's nothing fancy about it. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed Cooking with Zebka, and we'll see you next time.